religious values. So that you can see now
Unbanned.
so I found the most racist food I could find.
What is the most racist food you can find?
With Beneram. I can't disrespect my mom, man.
Hi, I am here today with Arinah. Most of you in the world community should know Arinah by now. If you don't know, you will know Arinah because in a year, Arinah is going to be responsible for the judges that enter your room. So listen very carefully. Listen very carefully to Arinah.
Pressure.
Pressure, indeed.
Oh, man.
Well, you're used to pressure, Arinah, having debated worlds, you know,
Yes.
and growing up in a Malay family in Malaysia as a woman. Pressure, no?
Yeah. Half Malay family, but yeah. There you go.
Half Malay. Is there such a thing?
Good question. We'll find out soon.
We shall find out soon.
Yes.
So we'll run through some issues. We're going to do race, religion, Sedition Act, education, gender, and then other random stuff, science and technology, maybe.
Dropping oil prices, maybe.
Affecting us, Malaysia. You know, no
Yes.
more, none of that subsidized, lovely subsidized fuel.
Mm-hmm.
So your dad can buy another one of those. What was that car he liked so much?
Nobody needs to know
Okay, all right.
where my dad works.
Nobody needs to know. I'll be flashing on the screen now. Okay, so let's talk about race. What is
Sure.
it like to, or what is race in Malaysia, and what does race in Malaysia represent? What do people need to understand about how important race is in Malaysia?
So most of you would have probably known already that Malaysia is a multicultural country. So we have three majority races, Malays, Indian, and Chinese. But these races are obviously much too focused because we also have our natives, which are also usually left out. So in Malaysia, the race is so compartmentalized
Yep.
and it's so focused and it's so heightened that people now make such a big deal of it, and even it's come to a point where people abuse that status. So in Malaysia, we have probably all of you know already by now, which is the Bumiputera status. So
Yeah.
Bumiputera literally means a man of the land, or prince of the land,
Sons of the soil.
sons of the soil, all of that.
Yeah.
So that's mainly Malays, right? So that's mainly Malays, and the criteria is, you could be like you are of Malay descent, Muslim, or majority, yeah. But and also you speak Malay.
Yes.
So a lot of the times that's the generalization, but then people forget that a lot of the times you have our natives who are in Borneo, Sabah, Sarawak,
Yep.
who are also Bumiputera and probably have already been here longer than we have, but still don't get the same treatment as the Bumiputera Malays get.
Yeah. So it's
So
kind of.
sorry?
No. Continue.
Yeah, and a lot of these people are also, a lot of them are also actually not Muslim. So, but they still get the Bumiputera status because they are of that heritage. So you have the Ibans, the Karazans. So these are the guys that are most probably or more likely the real sons of the soil. So take me, for example. I am an embarrassment to the Bumiputera status. My mom is Malay. My dad is Indian. But he's Indian Muslim. I mean, yeah. So, but I still get the Bumiputera status because I am half Malay.
Woohoo!
Yeah. So as you can see, a lot of the times it's kind of mixed up and it's very selective. So there are a lot of Malays here who also marry foreigners, but their children also get Bumiputera status, and
Right.
which defeats the purpose for a lot of things, because with the Bumiputera status comes a lot of benefits. So you have a lot of benefits like public education, you have benefits like cheaper housing, and also you have a lot of benefits like probably not getting stopped during a police roadblock. So it's very, very heightened. And a lot of the times, even if you can see the political scene in Malaysia, race, like for example, if the person or this politician is clearly Indian or clearly not Malay, but they just drop it entirely and just say, yes, I am son of the soil.
Yeah.
I eat, my curry and thosai every day. but it's fine. Like, so they sacrifice a lot of that. They just, that's how much race is a big issue here in Malaysia. And it's you have to identify it in your ID.
Yeah.
So you have to choose. Like for me, I hate the fact that I always have to. I'm actually one race.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
but when in actual fact I'm not. I would rather
Yeah.
not be like. I mean, I don't want to be Malay, nor do I want to be Indian.
Yeah.
Like, because I'm both.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what happens here. So people are now forced to choose their race, and people choose a more convenient one because of the benefits that people get here. What's even sadder is obviously the Bumiputera policy was created to sort of help the Malays, because the idea was back like 40 how many decades ago, which was the idea of the Bumiputera policy was supposed to help the Malays because they're economically disadvantaged.
Yep.
So the Chinese and the Indians, or the so-called immigrants, come in, and then they become more economically stable. They become very successful, so they dominate businesses, and so you have these poor Malays who are left, and they're not able to sustain themselves because they work as farmers or all of these things. So, but the policy then maintained, even though the policy was supposed to be temporary. So the policy maintained, even though Malaysia and the amount of, we don't have hardcore poverty anymore. So we don't have hardcore poverty anymore. The number of Malays who actually become successful and all of these things are actually are increasing, but the policy still stays.
So I suppose we still, like the rural areas, have some hardcore poverty, and there is more increase like urban poverty.
There is poverty, but not anymore. Like statistically and economically, we don't have the status hardcore poverty anymore.
So that's according to our statistics department.
Yes.
Right. It's the line you can just.
Yeah, there's a line. Yeah.
Yeah, if you drop it, then we can make poor people disappear.
Poverty still exists. Relative poverty still exists.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's still maintained. It's still maintained, and people abuse it all the time. So you have a lot of these rich Bumiputras who go to public education, taking up spots of people who could not afford education in the very first place.
Yeah.
So so a lot of the times that's the minorities, or the non-Malays feel very, very left out. They have to work twice as hard. They leave the country. and in actual fact, when they're thinking that it's helping the when this policy is supposed to help the Bumiputras, is actually not, because of that status. Bumiputras like me get the backlash from it. So for me, if I want to apply into the private sector, it actually becomes more difficult for me to apply. I get I'm under extra scrutiny because obviously I'm assumed to have worked, put in less effort as compared to a minority who put in twice as much effort because his family had to pay extra to go into private education, and then he had to study as much. He study a lot more, so it's more difficult for him to obtain education as compared to me.
Yep. I hear that a lot from a lot of my Malay friends and stuff.
Yeah. So even for me, and I get it all the time. Like I've even been told that the reason why I didn't get jobs in certain private sector. In private companies is because the company is majority. They mostly hire Chinese or non-Malays. They don't hire Malays.
Well, this kind of racism is actually very casual in Malaysia. You see ads and they'll say Chinese only, or roommates wanted, Malays preferred, or you see
really
all of these things. Yeah, and we just take it very, very casually. It's become very much a part of our life. But what you said earlier is also, I thought, quite interesting, like, because there are these very, like, these boxes, and you have to fit into a box.
Yeah.
Whereas in actuality, there's a lot of gradation between the boxes. Like, they have all the, Bumiputras. We have all, like, you have the Saranis, like the Dutch and Malay mix, the Eurasians. You have the Baba Nyonyas. And you have people like you, products of boxes, copulating with other boxes, and then having like sub boxes of people. But also what you were saying also about people fitting in. So like I think one of the problems is people moving into those different races, and because the race definition is political, not really like cultural that much. I can become Malay.
You can. actually.
I look kind of Malay.
You
actually.
probably are more Malay than I am.
Hey, I get
So-
stopped sometimes, when I'm like
Exactly.
eating during Ramadan and stuff.
There
It's
you
happened
go.
to me a couple of times. I had to show them my ID card
Exactly.
to
Yeah.
prove that I have the right to eat. Although everybody should have the right to eat regardless.
Exactly. Yeah, and I get stereotyped a lot. Like if I speak English, they're just like, so when did you come back to Malaysia? I'm like, what do you mean? They said, yeah, you were studying abroad, you lived abroad. I'm like, no. I've been staying in Petaling Jaya for like 24 years.
Well, PJ is kind of, PJs.
Oh, whatever.
Hey, I grew up PJ too,
16.
okay?
Exactly.
I
That's
also
what
PJ. Yeah.
Yeah. And so then there's also a lot of stereotypes. Oh, I didn't know you could, people commend me for weird things. Like, you speak English very well. Or, I didn't know that. And say, oh, okay. And I'm like, dude.
Yeah, we speak English in Malaysia also.
I actually had a lot of people when I first started out debating that tell me that because they saw me with the hijab, and then this girl said, "Oh, this tiny little Malay girl, Muslim girl coming up. Oh, she probably can't speak very well. She probably shy." And the moment I start speaking, and they're just like, "Oh."
That is the opposite of everything that we just thought.
Exactly. Did not expect that. So yeah, it's pretty fun breaking stereotypes.
You and you breaking stereotypes?
Yeah, it's fun to break those stereotypes.
But I was going to ask you about wearing the hijab actually, because you just said you kind of want you wear the hijab. You and IIU, where all of you guys kind of have to wear the hijab.
We have to. It's part of our dress code. Yeah.
Some of you do, in school and then not outside of school, but you do all the time.
Yeah.
That's a personal decision for you.
It actually, funnily enough, it wasn't. So it's not a personal decision. I didn't start wearing the hijab until I was 15, and that was because of my mom. My dad was chill. My dad wanted me to go for beauty pageants. Like my mom, mostly my mom. So after we went, Muslims, we have this pilgrimage. So there are different levels of pilgrimage. So we have the Hajj, which is the more mandatory one, and you have Umrah, which is more voluntary, but it's still encouraged.
Junior Hajj. Hajj light.
Hajj is like
Hajj is the big power one, yeah.
Yeah. So I went for Umrah, and then when I came back, I still didn't wear the hijab. And then my mom was like, "You need to wear it." And I'm like, "Why?" "Because you went for Umrah." And I'm just like, "But I don't want to wear it because I don't want to wear it." So, and then after a while, my mom pressured me to wear it. Then I wore it. And after a while, when I wore it, I realized, because I didn't like wearing it at all. Because I was just like, oh man, like, it's really, it's hot.
I have no idea.
Another thing, and then all these girls rap and stuff, like, whoa, right? So, yeah. So, but after a while, I kind of, not to say, I sort of grew into it, but I also understood the reasoning behind it. So after a while, I kind of grew into it, and I was like, okay, I wear it. But I myself personally, okay, this is, I guess, for everyone to know, I'm not too strict with it, in the sense that if people come over, because in my family as well, my dad's side, they're not in terms of practices, like in terms of like stuff like the hijab and stuff, the ancillary, not to say ancillary, I'm gonna get shot for this, but in terms of hijab, they're not too strict. But in terms of practices and becoming a good human being, they're really strong on that. So they're not. So that's why for us, even when my family comes over, I just put something on. Not like this. Probably got some strands of hair coming over. As long as I'm decent.
Yeah.
So as long as I'm decent and people come over, that's fine.
Yeah.
But a lot of people, they become really overly, like, they cover themselves up, become all ninja and stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah. But yeah, that's my story of wearing the hijab. So after a while, I just wore it, and then I realized it was no longer a hindrance. Because I enjoyed wearing the hijab and breaking a lot more stereotypes. And and then it's really fun because people always tend to have these, again, compartmentalized ideas of what women in hijab should be doing, or should be wearing, or should be behaving.
It's fixed perceptions of you.
Yeah. So then I realized it's pretty cool then that I wear the hijab and I can still be seen as a Muslim, a woman wearing a hijab, but not this conservative, reading the Quran all the time, not touching men, hijabi.
That's interesting. Because I think that's also one of like the issues in Malaysia.
Yes.
Identity issues and identity politics.
It's an obsession. It's an obsession. It's this weird obsession with trying to figure out and trying to identify this person. Like, because I think there's also this fear. People have this fear of not knowing things. So if they can't compartmentalize you, if they can't put a category on you, they can't put the label on you, then they won't, like, they just can't function.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of apparent everywhere, but especially in Malaysia, because we have, race kind of everywhere, and we celebrate their diversity and blah blah blah, which is fantastic, wonderful stuff. But then we also kind of cling on to it and don't understand what happens when you kind of lose those labels. Excellent. That's a good stuff about race. You said earlier you wanted to talk about like Islam and how Islam is enforced in Malaysia. What's the story with Islam?
Right.
If I'm a debater, I want to understand the Sharia thing. What's the Sharia thing and all this stuff?
So in Malaysia, we have two systems. We've got the civil law and also Sharia law. So Sharia law is obviously only to Muslims and applies only to Muslims. But the way in Malaysia, specifically it's run, is very micromanaged in a sense that there's a lot of infringement of your individual privacy and your individual space within Malaysia. Because I've traveled to the Middle East quite a bit, and I've noticed that over there, although it's a majority, and I mean it's a majority Muslim, if not all, and they also have only Sharia law. But the kind of implementation and how they govern things is not as it doesn't breach your privacy and your personal space as much as this. So, for example, like here we have religious police that they actually go around and scout for bad things to happen. I mean, that Muslims do, because if the non-Muslims do it, like, hey, they're going to hell anyway, right? Like, who really cares about them? That's a joke, guys. So, yeah. So then they do raids, like going to clubs, and then even they try to find Muslims, but only Malay Muslims. So if a foreigner who's a Muslim is in there, they will not touch you, or they will most likely not touch you because you're a foreigner. So they go out and scout. They go into these dodgy areas to catch people doing khalwat or close proximity. So they go to the beaches, especially on Valentine's Day. Oh, there are seasons. So you have Valentine's Day, you have New Year's, you have, I don't know, the launching of the Twilight movie, whatever, right? So there are seasons as well. So that's why it's heightened. And the funny part of it is that it's okay. Number one, obviously that infringes my privacy and my right to do whatever I want because it's my religion. Second is there's a lot of abuse because once they capture you or they catch you, there's also a lot of cases of sexual assault, embarrassment. They record you doing things. They not just sexual assault, but just general, like just assault. So and so even then the implementation is not that great.
Because these guys aren't actually like cops. They're
not actually. They're not. They're just at best probably they went to an Islamic school. So they went to an Islamic school. So they studied for about 12 years, 11 years, from going to anyone. So and then now they have the authority to punish you, and they have the authority to tell you what to do with your own life, which is really funny because I've been to UAE, I've been to Qatar, and then and then over there, granted there are no clubs, in the sense that
makes it easier then too.
No, they have clubs, but in the hotels. So the government doesn't endorse, they don't fund these clubs, but it's in the hotels because obviously they're hotels, they're a chain, they have to have these things. But if you go in there, you can see the Muslims there drinking. Like the Muslims are there drinking. They club. I've been to Oman and I've seen this guy in his thobe and his his robe, and he's just there drinking. Like I don't know what it was. I think it was Kilkenny. I don't know. Like it was. We were passing by the bar with my family, and this guy was just drinking with his cap on and everything. He is clearly a Muslim man, but no one touches him because. And then I've talked to some of the locals, and then they're like, because the government has decided that that's your deal with God, because we've done enough.
Wow.
Yeah, we've done enough. We don't publicize all of these things. We don't, not like they don't encourage, they don't overly encourage these things. But if you want to do it on your own, that's your problem.
But like in like Qatar, for example, alcohol is illegal. You need a special license.
Non-Muslims.
Yeah. Have a license, and then you can go to an alcohol shop and give them your thing, and you can stock up on booze or drink at the hotel. But that's not the case in Malaysia. There's plenty in case people here watching this are worried and start stocking alcohol. You can
no, not in Malaysia. No, Malaysia you can buy at 7-Eleven. It's fine.
Yeah.
So but the point is, like, even if they were to have, even if the religious policing could be justified, even the abuse that goes on with religious policing is insane.
Yeah.
It goes on not only just for drinking, it goes on for any act that is deemed against, a violation against Islam. So you've got premarital sex. You've got even being a transgender, they can arrest you.
And they do some of these things quite ad hoc, right? Each state has a religious authority, and states publish, their fatwas and things like which.
They have their
great. It's very entertaining to go to the state fatwa council's website and look at the things that they've outlawed.
They have these weird fatwas and stuff like shisha.
Yeah, smoking and
even though smoking is like, if you can still get a pack of Dunhill.
Yeah, there's still some kind of fatwa and stuff about it. So that's the I'm so much wrong with my throat. The strange, the one interesting thing I think, and to a large extent, you're right. Most of these laws, ironically, end up restricting the rights of Muslims more than, in supposed to help you get closer to your faith, but just make life very, very difficult for you. Some people, maybe appreciate it, but where it's gotten tricky is like in cases of custody disputes, and stuff, where one spouse converts and then converts the children.
It gets very, very messy. So they even hype that up a lot. There's so many examples of custody cases where they convert. One of the spouses converts, and then the spouse decides, okay, maybe this is not for me. So the child is then caught in this weird battle. So if the child can't stay with a non-Muslim parent, they would actually just take the child away and be like, no, he has to, grow up in a Muslim environment, and the child is just completely confused. This is what's going on. But it's really messy.
A couple of prominent issues. Like a lot of these things, I think, are just stuff that's wrong, that it shouldn't be fixed. It's hard for me, at least, to see debates, at least with like this forced conversions. Obviously, forced conversion, it's forced, shouldn't happen. Maybe.
So it's convenient. It's convenient. People just convert because, and the funny thing is, like, it's a lot easier. The conversions happen because the Muslims can't convert out.
Yeah.
Because you probably get killed. And so then the foreign husband just converts for the sake of converting, but they're clearly not practicing Muslims. So it's all, but then they still hide under the guise of, I'm a Muslim. Why are you attacking me?
Yeah.
I'm still protected. And they have this, they abuse it. They abuse it whenever they can. And then that links back to the Bumiputera status sometimes, because the parents are now Muslim.
That's something we should clarify also. You can't check out of Islam in Malaysia once you check in.
Once you're born.
Or once you're born. So
you can't check out, You have to go to, if you want to get married to a non-Muslim, you have to go to Singapore. Funnily enough, Indonesia as well. You can go and get married there. But you can't get married in Malaysia, no way. Yeah, you will get ostracized.
Very, very much. But that's a nice comparison with Indonesia, actually. And I think that's what like a lot of Muslims, Malay Muslims, especially in Malaysia now, grow up and you compare and contrast, and especially as Indonesia gets their act together and become a more stable democracy, and they develop and they're peaceful and become powerful, and then
I
you go
mean, they
like,
have their dramas too,
yeah.
but
They
yeah,
have their dramas. I mean, we've never had to go through some of the things that they've gone
yeah.
through in Indonesia. I remember times when the media will be like, at least we're not Indonesia. Yeah. And then, so we should be grateful for all the things we have today. But soon, that the shoe is going to be on the other foot. And
Yeah,
then it's a far more, it's also a, Muslim country, but far
yeah,
more pluralistic and far more liberal.
it is, and it sucks because now people are practicing. I mean, not all, of course. There are people who genuinely practice and then they believe in their religion and stuff. But there are people who are just practicing not to get, just because they don't want to get caught.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they just do that. Oh no, we can't do this because Jais will catch us or Jakim will catch us. Not because God is watching me, or I will feel bad or I have this guilt or I'll go to hell. It's because I don't want the government to react.
Yeah. So it devalues the religion.
It devalues the religion a lot.
Speaking of government reacting and fear of government, maybe we should talk about this Sedition Act thing. Another wonderful legacy of our British overlords.
Ah, thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, even the racism thing is probably you can thank them as well. Like, good job. Anyway. Yeah, so the Sedition Act. So the Sedition Act was obviously just created to protect the government against any seditious claims. Seditious being very broadly
broad.
Very broadly termed.
Anything I don't like, pretty much.
Yeah, it's anything I don't like. So it's another version of the Patriot Act. It's like, oh, you might be deemed a threat, and then I will capture you. So it's the same thing here. So, but obviously, as any vague law that exists, it's obviously abused for political reasons. So the Sedition Act is always used during elections.
Yeah.
So anyone who says anything against the government, they will be captured, they'll be arrested, and they'll be kept for saying something seditious. Like, for example, there were so many claims previously. So the more recent one was a law lecturer in UM who criticized the government because of one of the dramas in the States. Probably we don't have to go into it. So the Perak state government drama. So because some of the members from the opposition party defected, and then they joined the government, and then there became a new state without having any new re-elections. So he criticized that, then he got arrested.
Yeah, he criticized the role of the Agong, or the role of the Sultan, the Sultan there. Yeah, in approving.
The Sultan didn't want to listen, didn't want to have a re-election.
Yeah, whereas he should have been deferring to the chief minister, something like that, right? Yeah. So it was a constitutional crisis.
It was a constitutional crisis, yes. And then that was one. And then you had also a Malaysian online newspaper that was also shut down for seditious reasons because they likened the BN government to the Ku Klux Klan in one of their writings, and they got shut down for a while. So yeah, and even recently, okay, I don't think this is under, I don't know whether it was a Sedition Act, but there was also recently BFM also got fined.
That's under the MCMC.
Yeah, that's under MCMC, but that's also like because he was talking about Islam, like he was, so they thought it could be deemed as also dangerous, so they just fined him. That's not sedition. This
is Reza Aslan's interview.
They interviewed Reza Aslan.
How he thought it's preposterous non-Muslims can't use the word Allah.
Yeah. That too. So so anything that can be deemed as a threat to the government, really, or any ruling or any politician that's still in power, you can be captured and until further notice.
Yeah, because there's no right to trial.
There's no right to trial. You're just kept in prison. Yeah.
If you get locked under the ISA, under the Internal Security Act,
Mm-hmm.
right? But some people like the professor you mentioned, Azmi,
Yeah.
is challenging the Sedition Act
Yes, he is.
under
A
the
lot.
grounds that it's not constitutional.
Yeah. Yes, and then I think a lot of the students now have. A lot of the students in are also now joining that protest, making sure that he's released. A lot of Malaysians. There's a lot of push, but mostly I notice it's from the urban areas in KL. So I mean, urban areas in Malaysia. So you have KL, Penang. I think the bar association. What's the word?
The Bar Council.
The bar council. Yeah. I can't remember the full. Yeah, but yeah. So they even went out and protested against the Sedition Act. So yeah, it's another version of the Patriot Act. So anything that it can be deemed as a threat to the government, you will be arrested. So people now you put a lot of students especially are also put on the back foot of they have to be careful what they say, they have to be careful what they criticize, be careful what they post, because there are posts as well that can actually just be taken down, and you won't see it anymore if it can be seen as
they've investigated some people for posting things on Facebook, and a lot of the time I think online news is used as a threat to kind of quell dissent and make you fearful, right? So I say something stupid about the royalty, for example, or say something stupid about Parliament, or make some racist comment, which is of bad taste and offensive, like the Alvin guy who was eating bakute, which is a non-halal pork dish, and wished Muslims happy Ramadan. Yeah.
And then that was seditious.
Yeah, was charged with being seditious for disrupting the peace and harmony. Yeah, he is now in the US claiming asylum, and I think we've revoked his citizenship or his passport or something.
Yeah, I don't think we can revoke citizenship, right?
I don't know. I'm not sure the procedure is, but
yeah, if I'm not the last, I might be wrong. Yeah, but never mind.
Yeah. Anyway, I don't think it's such a simple procedure for you to go like citizenship revoked and then citizenship is revoked.
If you make enough noise, that will happen to you. And a lot of people now are keeping quiet, and it's really terrible because people are talking about it. They are talking about it. They're talking about it in their friends' houses. They're talking about it in the cafes. They're talking about it in restaurants. But like, whoa, you always hear like, oh, don't after they'll charge me for Sedition Act. When they say something, they criticize the government. Say, oh, okay, now after you get charged for sedition.
Followed by uncomfortable laughter.
Yeah, uncomfortable laughter, then silence, and probably talk about football.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and that's the kind of reaction that's happening right now, and it's really, really dangerous because the kids, everyone now, it's just so much paranoia. No one really dares to say what they really feel about anyone. Like, I mean, you can criticize, and the fun part of it is obviously you can criticize the opposition as much as you want. You can criticize them. You have the current.
Not that they are beyond criticism, or they don't deserve criticism, but
you can criticize them and say probably equally horrible things and not get any reaction, or equally baseless things and not get any reaction because it's not as seditious.
True. Yeah, it doesn't disrupt power. But some people find some value in this Sedition Act, and even some of our somewhat reasonable friends defend it because they say like offensiveness needs to be limited. We are very fragile society, and
that's fair. I think Malaysia is trying to table the Harmony Bill. So that one also. They're trying to figure out and draw the lines. I think the MCMC and also the Ministry of Communications and Multimedia is trying very hard to figure out where do you draw the line of what is actually really offensive and what can be considered constructive criticism, or at least harmless criticism. Yeah, but that's the kind of. But the problem is that's not what the Sedition Act is being used for.
Yeah.
For all these, and then at best is most of the time these very, very offensive remarks, like actually just calling out someone because of their race, likening their race to animals, for example, likening their gender to, like degrading that person completely. At best, you won't get charged. You will probably get your post removed or blocked.
Yeah.
And even then, it's very difficult to do because we don't, and the government doesn't have control. And I think MCMC came out with a statement of this, that it's very difficult for them to control Facebook because they don't control Facebook.
Yeah.
And only Facebook can decide and have these filters, but the government can't.
Yeah. Credit to Malaysia, we haven't taken ever YouTube offline or Twitter offline or Facebook offline or really kind of
that we haven't gone
censor stuff.
We haven't gone that far. There was a bit of drama where people thought that our Ministry of Communications wanted to shut down Facebook.
And create their own Facebook.
Create their own Facebook, which is really funny because it was taken out of context.
Yeah.
So the minister just said, if the people want to take down Facebook, we would take down Facebook. Then suddenly, headline, Malaysia's taking down Facebook. People don't question. People are afraid. It's, again, going back to the race and religion thing, it's so enshrined that people become afraid to question their race and people become afraid to question their religion. I can still be associated to being a Muslim. I can still be Muslim. I can still be a Malay. Even despite me questioning it, but people are just completely afraid to question it. They just go with it.
Yeah. It's dangerous.
It's very dangerous because, again, that's why then a lot of drama when you see our debaters doing well, and then when the Prime Minister posted up, and then everyone's like, but debate's not our culture. The Prime Minister said our debate's not our culture.